Hello and welcome to some time with my old friend Battle Brothers. Now, every game is not for every person, so this game is certainly not for everybody. It's pretty tough, but for me, this is probably one of the best games I've ever played. And I've been playing games since the early '80s, so I've got quite a bit of experience on consoles and my old Commodore 64, the Amiga, my 386 and 486. Wait, is there a 386? Whatever. Certainly a 486. So if you like XCOM, if you like turn-based tactical type games, and this game has quite a bit of a management element to it as well. This one's probably for you. I'm going to put together a series of almost tutorials and kind of reviews. I've played a lot, but I've never actually gone through and completed all the different side quests, all the different missions, and I figured, I'll start a new band, I'll put that as a goal, and I kind of talk through some of the key points for people who are maybe unfamiliar with the game or struggling with it a little bit. So, I'll start with a new campaign. Now, there's a lot of pros and cons to all these different backgrounds. For my purposes, and for this video, in my little quest again to pass all the different kind of not just the in-game crises. I've done all those, but the things like the Black Monolith and the Urgic, I think it's called, all the different like super monsters, the Kraken, I've kind of avoided those. So that's kind of the goal. I think which will work best for that and for this is the Peasant Militia. The bad part is, especially for showing new players, is I can't get a bunch of the more advanced character backgrounds and character types. But it's good, certainly for combat-wise, you get more people, and when I start especially, you can start seeing how you have to be very careful about selecting your characters. When you go to hire somebody, you have to look closely at their stats because they're a long-term investment. And if you look at a lot of other people who, are casual gamers and reviewing the game, even if they like it. I remember someone showing his band, it's well into the game, he's showing these characters in his party with horrible either starting stats or negative traits that really hold them back. And he's talking about how he's having a hard time, beating the game at even the medium difficulty. I was like, well, that's why, because you're keeping trash players and characters and trying to level them up when you should just fire them and move on. So there's going to be a lot of trash people in a Peasant Militia, and we'll have to learn how to cull through them and find out what's good. Since I am going for all the different kind of achievements, we'll go for that, and this crisis doesn't matter as much for my purposes. Here, this one looks nice. Looks like we're looking for something. Expert, low. We'll go with Iron Man. And I don't have a favorite particular map seed. I haven't messed around with the unexplored. And again, since a lot of this is kind of either review, intro for people who aren't familiar with the game, or maybe some will help people who are struggling with it, we'll skip off that for now. It's not going to help our purposes at all. Taking a while to load. Darn you, game streaming. Alright. My cursor changed to a hand. That's a good sign. Alright. There we go. So, right off the bat, one of the first things you want to do, if you're struggling with the game, one of the first things you might want to do is just take a look at the map and see, is this map going to be helpful or not helpful to me? And, okay, what does that mean? Well, let's zoom out and take a look. Oh, kind of unusual, so we're way off on the side here. So one of the things you're looking for is there some water? Because water can be useful for traveling around the map quickly, but you don't want a lot that interferes with your movement where you have to go around it. And in this map, there's very, very little water, unless there's something over here. Very little water is okay. Lots of water that's in the way and breaking up the land so you can't move very well is very difficult. or at least it hinders you quite a bit because it wastes time traveling around it. This is doable. I mean, you don't need water, so I'll be okay with this. The next thing I'm going to look for, if you want to get really advanced, I would look to make sure there's at least a couple towns and forests. Let's take a look at this one. A village living off lumber. Got it. So as long as you've got at least one of these kind of places, this is where you can hire, not in my particular run, but in most runs, you'll have a lot of hunters there. And if you're gonna need accurate archers, and hunters are the best in the game. So you'll at least want a couple, so it makes it a little easier. You can hire those guys. And I only see the one. Yeah, there's another one. So yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunities in a regular run to get archers. Now, the third thing you're going to look for is there a good place to kind of have a bunch of towns, not fortifications. Let's see if we can find an example. Kallenberg, no. Here. Okay, so this is a stone keep or a castle. And you can see it says relations neutral. You can only get quests there if you're at a higher level. You need a place where there's several towns. Nope, not that. Not that. Okay, so that one. You can get the family quests, which are higher, harder to do, or the gray banner is just like the local village, and those you can get from the very start. So you need to find, ideally, a place that has a bunch of those towns nearby, so you can very quickly do quests and kind of level up. So this one's a large town, which is good because you can sell things for good prices, and it has beginner quests. Okay, good. No, see, that's not. This place will have good prices for selling. But you can't get quests there until later, so that's not so good. How about over here? There's a bunch of towns in pretty close proximity. Quests. No. Quests. 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 Okay, so we've got, what, 4 through here? 4 is a pretty good number of places to do quests, and you can just go up and down this strip doing missions. So that's handy. And I think you can do quests here even if you're not at the higher level. I think these are considered cities, not royal families. So here we would technically have probably 3. 1, 2, 3, maybe this one too. Although you got to go around the water, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So this map in general is pretty good. We've got places to hire hunters. We've got a nice area here. We've got a bunch of towns where we can very quickly go back and forth and get quests and not have to waste time traveling around. It kind of sucks. There's not a lot of land up in the snow area. Not a lot of cities up here. On the different backgrounds where you can hire barbarians or have other types of characters, sometimes there's some neat events that occur up in the north. You're not going to be spending a lot of time in the north here. But again, I don't want to say it's optional. It's a perk, but it's not a game breaker not to have it. The other thing that looks a little weird on this map is that it's all kind of skewed to the left side here. All civilization is kind of over here. There's not a lot of unexplored land on the left. And then you've got this giant gray area over here, which in some ways, again, for my purposes, might be kind of handy in that all the legendary locations and things, I know they're out here somewhere probably, and you can focus early and mid-game in the towns doing quests and grinding and doing the events that the different events, crisis. And then as you get to higher levels, I'm going to focus on exploring and looking for legendary items and legendary locations. You'll start shifting your focus over to the right here and start exploring through here. Maybe start up top, grab some supplies, run through an area, then loop down and stop at a town, sell your stuff, get some more supplies, loop through, that kind of thing. All right, so enough of that. We've got a decent starting map. Our goal, realistically, we may do a couple quests in this area, and it kind of sucks because you start with good relations with this town where you get good prices and things, but we're not going to stick around here. We'll do a couple quests, maybe a couple quests here, and start moving to the right and get over to here. We're going to do most of our initial grinding for levels. Actually, just double check one more thing. Small town, large city, so they have better products and better prices for us. Another large city. This is good too. I mean, this is deeper stuff. But this is a farming place, so you can buy cheap food here. So you can sustain your people cheaply as they move along. Down here, these mining places sell very cheap tools. So now as I am doing quests and I'm grinding, I can feed my people cheaply. I can keep my people's equipment maintained cheaply, which means I can keep those maintenance costs low so I can get better profit. And I can sell products at these larger towns, and they'll have, you know, better armor and stuff for me to buy. They're not the huge, if you look, it says a large city, a large city. They're not a big harbor city. The huge towns have the best prices and the most products, or like these down in the south. Again, large towns, very expensive, but more stuff to buy, more products, more selection. But this is even better the more I look at it for a good kind of grinding place for the first level, you know, early to mid game. So if you don't know, if you push shift will bring you right back to your party. We can click on our little party thing up here, and we're just going to go through and do a quick scrub and look to see if any of these people are absolute garbage, and if they are, we'll put them down here in the bottom and just say, hey, we're going to fire them. Now, why would you fire some of these people? Because we got, what, 12 people down here? Realistically, we should be shooting for around 6 or 7. Most of these guys are not very good, are not going to be beneficial. Let's pick this guy. He's usually the worst. And yeah. Not as... It's going to sound crazy to people who play this a lot. He's not as crazy as I was expecting. So the minstrels have decent morale, which is one of the most important stats, and a lot of newer players don't give it the attention that it deserves. When your characters all have low morale, a few of them start getting hit, then other people panic. As they panic, all their other stats drop, and they fight less effectively. They get hit more, and it just spreads throughout the army. So starting at 49 is very high, which is good. Having 2 stars and 51 for peasants is actually pretty good. 51, again, if you're playing on the other ones where you've got better troops and things, 51 is pretty trash. But 51 with 2 stars, so he'll promote quickly in it, and he gets plus 10 damage. That means he can, as we get to higher levels, he'll be able to put out damage. The only problem is, as a minstrel, his health is very low, and his fatigue is very low. Now, potentially, if you wanted to keep him, we could put him in the back lines. So he's got a pole arm or something. He can hit people as he levels up. He can do lots of damage with it. And back here, he won't have to have as heavy an armor, where this fatigue factor really plays in, because hopefully he's not getting hit as much. I'm still on the fence. I'll probably trash him, because ultimately he's not a super great character. But in peasant world, beggars can't be choosers. So we'll put him off to the side for a second. This guy, ooh, okay, 57. He sells a star. That's good. 44. Again, for peasants, starting morale, that's anything above 40 in the peasant world is doing pretty well. Again, fatigue is not great. Ideally, you want to be over 100. And he's no stars in it, so his fatigue is always going to be low, which means he'll never be able to have really heavy armor, and that's what's going to keep your people alive. And again, 58 is all right, but it's not great. Again, we'll put him off to the side here. He again, theoretically could be someone in the back line with a polearm, where some of the weaknesses are mitigated. Militiamen usually are some of the best troops you can get as a peasant army, because they usually have better fighting skills. They got decent stats. This guy does not. This one's helpful, but it doesn't make up for this. Minus 10 hit points. This guy is going to die very easily. Again, he's only got 52 with a star. Although he does have some defense, which is usually what you want to have for your people in the front line who are getting swung at, right? But if he gets hit, he's just going to get wrecked. Militiamen also have pretty good starting nerve, morale, resolve, whatever they call it in this game. So this guy is a little different than these two. Although actually his fatigue is better once you take his gear off. But ultimately, I think he is going to have to be trashed. This is going to really set him back. And he doesn't have the same kind of potential for hitting things from the back line as these guys do. This guy will hit more. This guy will hit harder. And with 2 stars as opposed to 1, eventually he'll have a higher melee skill and hit harder. So, no. Alright. This guy is not an archer, so we don't care about Night Blind. In fact, do you even look at these guys? Yeah, we talked about his. He didn't have. Okay. I mean, some of these you just glance at, and if you know, you don't even give it a second thought. But Night Blind only really matters for archers. Swift is okay, but it's never going to be a real... it's not going to make or break if you're going to pick somebody. You'd probably prefer most of the other positive traits, but okay, whatever, 5. That's really bad. That means you're going to spend most of your time trying to level this guy up, just getting his resolve up somewhere where he won't panic at the first hit in your army. That's bad. 52, but with no stars, so he's going to slowly level up. He starts with decent fatigue, but no stars, so he's never going to get high in it. This guy doesn't have any really redeeming factors at all. This guy's trash. Now this guy, this guy, all right. Now we're talking about, well, you know, 57, 50, but he's got 2 stars, whatever. All right. This guy's got 62 starting, and he's got a star in it. This guy, if we can keep him alive and level him up, he's going to be up in the 90s, which is where we want him to be. That's great. Health. Okay, 52 is better. It's still not great, but he's got a star in it. What's his fatigue? That's probably going to be his downfall again, yep. So, low fatigue and no star in it, so he won't gain it very quickly. And it's going to be a recurring theme. It's easy to find people who can fit adequately in the backline with the polearm. It's hard to find someone with the whole package of good attacking skill, some defensive skill, good fatigue, and at least a decent amount of health to take a few hits. This guy... this would make me want to make him a 2-handed weapon guy, one of your kind of all-stars, your lynch key players on the team. But with this, he'll never have enough armor to be effective on the front line like that. And he doesn't have a star in defense to maybe try to make him some kind of light hybrid kind of fighter guy. So he's going to have to be in the backfield, but he can stay. We'll keep him up here. He can definitely be a polearm guy and be effective. Okay, so he costs more to keep. He does level up a little more quickly. He's got decent health, which is helpful. Fatigue is fine, but again, he's not going to level up quickly in it. The only thing of any note here is, with 3 stars here, he will eventually get good defensive skills. And while it may be helpful at times to have like one guy in your list that is just super tanky, and all he does, he's got a shield, maybe like a dagger or a spear, just to kind of lock people in place without too much fatigue. And he just taunts and draws attacks, and he's impossible to hit. This guy isn't the one for that. We'll get rid of him. this guy. Let's see, this guy. Okay, so low starting stats. He has 2 stars in it, so he'll get up to, a moderate level, but he'll never be a superstar in that. He does have a star in fatigue. That might be the first one we've had so far. And once you take his stuff off, he's over 100. He's at 30 resolve though, which again, like I said before, is pretty terrible. And that's lower than these guys, right? Yeah, that's the lowest we've seen so far. That alone, and the fact that even his best stats are not so good, I'm probably gonna trash him. This guy. Okay. This doesn't matter so much. There are some people that will play around with trying to pump up initiative to have like a lightly armored, dodgy character. For the most part, I think it's just load up your guys. Get tanky guys with lots of fatigue, decent amount of health, and just give them tons of armor, and don't worry about this at all. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, pretty meaningless. So he's got 55. He's never going to be great, but he's over 100 here. He's got a star. He's got 58 health. That's all right. This is a decent starting amount, and he's got a star in this. To me, what this says is this guy can be useful, and just to make it easier for myself, sometimes I give them titles. This is a dude. A dude is never going to be a superstar. He's not absolute trash. I mean, his morale is low, but it's not as low as some of these other guys. And again, most people we have are going to be low. This guy gets a shield. He gets a weapon, starting with a spear, and then if he gets high enough, maybe something else. He's going to have a lot of armor, and he's just a regular line fighter. He's good enough to stay alive and keep on the team. If he dies, he's replaceable. So, we'll probably keep him. Alright. So, that's always a good one, and you can see it reflected here. However, I mean, while a super high score like this is not bad to have, the only time you really need something this high is if you're going to give it to your standard bearer. And if it's going to be your standard bearer, you want stars here so you can get it as high as possible, because his main purpose is going to be keeping the morale up for your whole group. Low starting fatigue. Sure, he's got 2 stars, but it's never going to get, never going to be great. Moderate health, terrible melee, and no stars. Partially because of this, it reduces his skill in it. While that looks great, this guy does not have a purpose. What are you going to build him towards? You can't build him towards a standard bearer. You can't make him a backline polearm guy. So obviously can't be an archer. Doesn't have the defense or the fatigue to wear heavy armor on the front. He's just a person without a purpose. So he's going to go away. This guy. So, oh god. That's dreadful too. The good news is, I mean, for someone, if anyone's going to have a low fatigue, it would be your archers. They're not hit very often. He's got a decent starting score, but no stars. Although archers, I think they get between 2 and 4 points every level instead of melee, which is 1 and 3. So he will still level up a decent amount, but he's never going to be a great archer. Decent fatigue. He's got a star. I'm almost tempted just to keep him because I need to keep somebody and have some kind of shooting. So we may keep him around. And you'll see, as we're going through here, suddenly you don't have very many people left, and you have to start picking people from your maybe column just so you can get your 6 or 7 people. And again, you can't take all 12. It takes too much food to feed all these guys, too much money to pay these guys every day. If you keep them all, you're going to be struggling and be in debt all the time, chasing quests, trying to stay alive, and you'll never get anywhere. You've got to cut this fat off so that you have a reasonable sized team so you can make money, and you're not, when you fight a battle, after you kill the enemies, let's say all the enemies together are worth 300 experience. You divide that up amongst your team. The people who score the killing blows get a little bit more, but it's shared. Suddenly you're sharing that limited experience, which is basically a resource, with a bunch of losers that are never going to amount to anything in the game. And they're basically parasites. They're taking away from your stronger people and not giving anything in return. They're holding you back. So you've got to cut the dead weight. All right, this guy. Meh. I mean, that's another one of those kind of, it's nice to have, but it's not a huge deal. Mediocre, never going to get anywhere. Okay, decent, but no stars. As a farmer, farmers usually have pretty good health and stamina, so he is a little tougher than most. And they're usually not very brave. Again, what is this guy going to be? This guy will not build anything. He could potentially be a dude just because he's tougher. And again, because I'm needing people, I may keep him, and I'll do is double check him against some of these other guys. Now, and we were talking about dudes. Let's look at this guy. I mean, these guys are basically the same, except 68, 101. 66, 101. But the other guy has 2 stars. 28 morale, 34 morale. Which actually is a huge deal. 56 and 2 with a star. 51 and 4 with no star. So, in a lot of ways, these guys are comparable. This guy is probably better overall, except this is so terrible. And he's got a star, so only a couple level ups, and he'll get this up somewhere reasonable. This guy is going to take a long time to get somewhere reasonable. What else do we have down here again? So you start looking at it again. It's like, no, this guy's not so bad. He could be a dude, but he can't. He's going to die too quickly, and he doesn't have the fatigue for heavy armor. Which it doesn't seem like a lot. This guy's got 101. This guy's got 97. At 4 points makes a big difference. And 26 points of health makes a big difference too for someone who's going to be in the front line getting hit. This guy, you're like, okay, no. This guy, actually, okay. Maybe. If you compare this guy to these guys, maybe he's a better buy. So I don't know. I'll dig around, compare the stats here, but that's basically what you've got to do when you're starting with this kind of a company. You're going again for about 7 people, enough that you can fight and beat enemy units at the beginning of the game, but not so many people that you're sucking up resources and holding back the entire company's progression. And not so few. If you've only got like 4 dudes, like you pick the 4 best, you're gonna have a hard time winning a lot of the fights you have to have up front. You just won't have enough people. And hiring people from towns, A, takes money, and B, is just as much a crapshoot as dealing with what you've got here. So again, off camera, I'll take some time, look at these guys, decide which ones I want to keep, which ones are the best, comparing the stats. And again, it's going to boil down to, like 3 guys in the back, which means I'll have to have 4 in the front. Get a lame archer, a couple decent polearm guys, a couple guys that have some potential, and then a couple of guys are just dudes. They're just filler. And, that's a decent starting lineup to work with. And the other nice thing is, instead of having a bunch, if you keep them all, you've got a bunch of guys you're trying to arm or equip. You don't have the money for it. So you're going to have a bunch of guys like this running into battle who are just asking to get killed. And again, once they get hit, once they get hurt, once they get killed, they spread panic among everyone else. Instead, you get rid of a bunch of these guys, and now you can cobble together at least some decent starting equipment and pick the best weapons to give to people. And suddenly, instead of a bunch of trash, you've got a medium amount of semi-trash, a little better. So I'll put this together and we'll see where it goes.